Welcome everybody to this Motzei Shabbos edition of Daf Yomi Shir. We're not going to call it Daf Yomi for the Amaratzim anymore. People telling me it's derogatory. We'll call it Daf Yomi Shel derech eretz. Daf Yomi of derech eretz. We're up into the Daf Samech Beis 62 in Yoma. We'll start off with a little derech eretz for today. I have a couple of brother-in-laws came over for Shabbos, and we're discussing, and discussion leads to many things when you're discussing things at the Shabbos table, after the Shabbos table. We're talking a little about politics, about this new government, Bennett and Lapid, and Avigdor Lieberman as the finance minister, and what he's going to do to the datot of the Haredim. Is it going to exist anymore? At one point, one of my brother-in-laws, we're not going to say who, one of the newer ones, he said, "Benzi, it's enough already. I can't hear this anymore. My ears can't listen to this anymore." Now, I was a little shocked, and most people were a little shocked. This brother-in-law likes to learn Torah. Politics was apparently not part of free speech, and that's the point I'm going to bring up today, is whether Judaism believes in free speech or not. The Constitution of America believes in free speech. Does Judaism believe in free speech or not? And, the big question, obviously, starts with the area of Lashon Hara. Chafetz Chaim rules, and one of the first rulings that he makes in his Sefer is that that Lashon Hara is usher even for the truth. If that's true, that it's usher to say Lashon Hara negative about people, even though it's true, even though you're being 100% accurate, that would pretty much negate free speech. The way it goes now in the world, in the Haredi world mostly, is that certain topics are taboo. For example, sports, taboo. Any mention of women is taboo, or picture of a woman is taboo. In certain topics, the learned people, the Talmidei Chachamim, will never really talk about, including politics, things like that. Some of the publications will write about politics, like Mishpacha magazine, which I'm subscribed to. They never give it on time. Tell them to better their service. So politics is something which a lot of learned people push to the side. They don't want to talk about it. It's a waste of time. I want to suggest over here that even the Chafetz Chaim does say that Lashon Hara on truth is really usher. I'm not going to argue on the Chafetz Chaim because he wrote a sefer on Lashon Hara, and I'm not going to argue on it. But I want to say what he meant was to say something that true. It has to be Lashon Hara if it's true, if it's negative, but only if you're exaggerating or you're saying in a way that you go overboard. Now, according to U.S. law, there is defamation and there is libel. You're not allowed to say something false about somebody and cause them injury. And Lo Seilach Rachel Ba'amecha, Torah adds, there's obviously Motzei Shem. And when you talk about a Nara Morasa and you say that she slept with somebody else when she was Nara Morasa, except not her future husband, you cause her Chiyav Misa and you cause her Ksuba. So there is definitely damage that you're doing. And that would be defamation and libel that the U.S. Constitution does not allow. Torah adds also Lo Seilach Rachel Ba'amecha. It's like a peddler. Rachel is a peddler. Peddler, he sells cheap stuff. He's walking around, he's selling cheap stuff. When you don't give your real opinion, Torah wants you to have an opinion. Part of the Aseret Adibros, I really believe, the first two Aseret Adibros, Anochi Hashem Elokecha and Lo Yeh Lecha Elim Acherim, he's talking about having an opinion in a conversation. And everything is very important for a person to have an opinion. And that's part of the Aseret Adibros, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, that you have the winning opinion. Your opinion, you believe in it so strong, you have such good proofs for your opinion, it's the winning opinion. And that's the first Aseret Adibros. The second one is that you should make sure to disprove everybody else. Disprove their points. And basically, those two. So there's a difference of talking about having an opinion, a strong opinion, but an accurate opinion, not a cheap opinion, something that makes sense. And that's really the concept of Elu Divrei Elohim Chaim. The Gemara is full of machlokas, Tanoim, Amoraim. Till this day, every Mishnah Brura quotes almost every halacha has a machlokas about it in some way. A machlokas is not a bad thing. It means that the Torah recognizes legitimate opinions both ways, one way, the other way, or a third way. Our job in learning the Torah is to find the right opinion, to prove the right opinion, and to try to figure out what the truth is. And even if one rabbi says one way, another rabbi says another way, if they really researched it and really believe their opinion, so that's Elu Divrei Elohim Chaim. And the truth is that really there is one right opinion, and it'll have to be proved that one day or another. And sometimes it is proved, Allah, that's conclusively one way or the other. But when it's not proved, you have two legitimate opinions, and there could be two different piskei halacha based on that, and they're both correct. Torah wants you to have a legitimate opinion. It wants you to win the argument, but the starting point is having a legitimate opinion. And the Torah adds that having a cheap opinion, saying cheap things about other people without research and without real conviction of what you're saying, that's something which is asur, and that does not contradict free speech. Free speech is speech that is thought out, speech that is measured, speech that is researched, speech that you really believe in with conviction, and you're not saying it for political or other aims or financial reasons that you want to get something out of your opinion. You're not politically driven, you're not financially driven. You have a real opinion to it, and you're entitled to that opinion. Torah wants you to have that opinion. And that's free speech. And we had a Sheva Brachos for my sister-in-law and brother-in-law a couple weeks ago. I was the MC at the Shabbos Sheva Brachos, of course, and I did a very good job. I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to tell you the truth with an honest opinion. That's not an opinion. This is the truth. I did a very good job. I was very funny. I was very personable. That's the way I am. I got into trouble with one point. Chassan had asked me to say something positive about the Kala. This was after Friday night. I spoke. He wanted something more positive about the Kala. So on Shabbos day, we had a Hasidish speaker. I was introducing him. And we're on the topic of Hasidus. I had spoken the previous night, to one of the relatives of my wife. She's Hasidish. And we were talking about, I guess, the taboo topic, but it was okay to talk about it. We talked about what percentage of Hasidic ladies shave their heads. It's known that some of them do. Is it a majority, a minority? So this lady wanted to say that a majority of them do. And, she has her opinion, and I don't know if she knows about all Hasidic ladies. My opinion particularly is that minority actually do shave their heads. She thought a majority, and I previously had this argument with the Kala herself over the Shabbosim that I've been here. She thought a majority, I said a minority. So I was going to praise, in a facetious way, the Kala's intuition. And I started mentioning, and by the way, I met this cousin last night, and she told me that most Hasidic ladies do shave their heads, at which point I was promptly cut off by a lot of people there. I said, don't say that, you have to be quiet. So now it's not exactly what I would call free speech. When you limit and you censor someone, you say they can't talk about certain topics, whether it be sports, or shaving someone's head, or politics. That's censor. It's not free speech. And the Torah does believe in free speech, believe it or not. And the Chavetz Chaim said that you're not supposed to say Lashon Hara, even if it's true. He means if you're exaggerating and you're saying in a way where you really don't believe it. But if you're really saying the truth, and you're not saying Ra, you're not saying it in a way that makes the person out worse because you hate the person, you're making it worse than it really is, but you're saying the honest truth about a person. My brother-in-law asked me, he said, how do you get around saying Lashon Hara? What's the best advice to not say Lashon Hara? He said his wife told him that he should have an ayin tov. He should have a good, favorable opinion about people. An ayin tov, look at people favorably. I said it's not really truthful. Sometimes you look at people favorably, it contradicts the truth. And the Chos Moshe HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emes, the signature of Hashem is truth. That's what we believe in. You have to distance yourself from falsity. So ayin tova, I don't know if it's the best thing all the time when you disregard the truth, but if you exaggerate the negative characteristics of somebody, that would be a problem. I think that's what the Chavetz Chaim is talking about. But if you're saying an accurate representation of someone calls you for a shidduch, they ask what the guy's like. Let us say, you tell them what the guy's really like. Be honest, be open, be fair, but be honest. This is the conversation I had with my friend this morning, my friend Noam, at shul. After Kriyas HaTorah, before Musaf, we had this discussion. So, thank Noam for that. He claimed that Torah does not allow free speech, but like a guy said, I have an opinion. I believe that Torah does allow free speech, and that's the derech eretz for today. We'll start with Daf Samach Beis. The bottom of Samach Aleph and Aleph, the Gemara says, "Boy minei Rav Merav Nachman kama seirim mishaleach." We said before that if you have two seirim, Sir LaHashem and Sir LaAzazel, so if the blood spills in between, before you do all the sprinklings, you have to shecht another pair of seirim. We were talking about yesterday which one you burned. Now we're talking about the Sir LaHashem. What about the Sir LaAzazel? How many of them you use? Let's say 3 of them now. You have 3 Sir LaAzazels. How many do you send to LaAzazel to be thrown off the cliff? He's going to send away his whole LaAzazel, his whole flock of sheep. Of goats. Amar lo v'chi edro soref. So what's the other option? The other option is you don't send them away, you burn them. He's going to burn his whole flock. Here, it says shloach oso la'azazel, so therefore only one can be sent away, as opposed to the Sir LaHashem, which multiple seirim could be burnt. Idmar of Papi Mishmei the Rav Amar Rishon Mishalech. The argument was, which one do you send? We know you send one. Which one do you send? He says the first one. Rav Simi Mishmei the Rav Amar Achron Mishalech. He says the last one. Bishlam Rav Simi Mishmei the Rav Amar Achron Mishalech Kasar Hol Gamar Kapara. You spilled the blood of the first 2. The third one you're going to send away. That's the one that you did kapara with. El Rav Papi Mishmei the Rav Maika Savar. What did he hold? Savarlak Rav Yossi. The Amar Mitzvah Rishon. He says the mitzvah, when you're doing mitzvahs, you do with the first item in front of you. The Gemara says, "Hi, Rabbi Yossi." Which Rabbi Yossi are we talking? Rabbi Yossi, the Kupos, Rabbi Yossi of the Mishnah, or Kupos. It's not Rabbi Yossi. Omer Shalosh Kupos Shalosh Sayin Shebehen Tormin Es Halishka. You have 3 buckets of coins of shkalim. We learn Mistaka shkalim that you would use to take out money for the karbanos at Sibor. Aleph Beis Gimel. One bucket was written Aleph, the second Beis, second Gimel. Sanya Amar Yossi Lama Kasolein Aleph Beis Gimel Leida Ezem Nishmar Rishon Lahavia Himana Rishon Mitzvah Rishon. He says the mitzvah is to take from the first one. So the word says Dilam Beida Deschazai Kamaisa Lo Eschazi Basraisa. The Gemara says maybe over there. It's because when you were taking from the first bucket, there was only the first bucket was filled. The second and third weren't. But here, you're dealing with 3 Sir LaAzazel all standing in front of you. So why choose the first one? Ela Rabbi Yossi the Pesach. Rabbi Yossi from Mishnah of Pesach. And the Sanya, Hamafresh Pischo va'avad v'hifresh acher tachtav. He sets aside a Korban Pesach, and it got lost. And then he sets aside another one. He Makadesh another one in place of it. And then he finds the first one They're both still alive. Ezem ehen sheyirta yakriv. Whichever one he wants to bring, he can bring. Divrei chacham. Riyossi or mitzvah barishon. He says, Riyossi, like we're saying over here, he says the first one, it takes precedence. If the second was better from it, then you bring the second one. Hadron Allah chotziu lo. We have finished the fifth parak. Now we'll move on to the sixth parak. Okay. Shnei seira Yoma Kippurim. Mitzvasan shiyu shneien shavin b'maro v'komo v'dom. U'lekichasan ka'echad. The two seirim Yom Kippur, right? One is Shir Hashem. One's going to eventually be Shir Hashem. One's going to be Shir Azazel. When you first purchase them, they should be similar in appearance, in height, in price, and you should purchase them at one time from one seller. Even if they're not exactly the same, they're still kosher. We're going to discuss in the Talmidei Chachamim portion of our shir, does ksher min b'di'evet or min l'chalchila? That's going to be the topic. Even if you didn't buy them together, you bought one today and one tomorrow, they're still kosher. If one of them died, if one of them died, if he died before he actually did the lottery to decide which one's the Hashem, which one's the Azazel, so then just take a second to pair it up. If one of them died after he did the lottery, he has to bring another two animals, another two seirim, do another lottery. If the one that died was Lashem, so then you should say this one should be on a new lottery. This one that came out Lashem should be in place of him. Is Kaim Tachta. If the one who died in the first lottery was Azazel, so then this lottery that produced the Azazel should be in place of the first one. The second animal from the second pair, you let it graze until it gets a mum, and then you sell it and you remove the kedusha and you use the money for a korban nedava. She'ein chata tzibur meisa, since it's a korban chata, it belongs to the tzibur. It doesn't die. Yehuda Omer Thomas. He says it should actually die. But Od Amar Yehuda nishbach hadam yimos hamishtalech. Meisa mishtaleach yishafei hadam. Yehuda adds another teaching that if the blood spilled after you slaughtered the karbanos and then the blood spilled before you sprinkled it, so then the mishtaleach dies. You kill the mishtaleach. Meisa mishtaleach, or if the Shil Azazel died, yishafach hadam. Then you pour out the blood and you take two new animals. The Gemara, Samechal, Samech Beis Amad Beis, Tana Rabbanan, Yikach, Shnei Seirei Izim, Miyud Seirei Shnayim. It says in the pasuk you should take two Seireis. Miyud Seirei Shnayim. When it says Seirei, it's plural. So it's at least two. Matam Alomar Sheni, Shnei. Why does it say two? Shliu Shnei and Shavin. Why the extra word two? And they should both be similar. How do you know, even if they're not shavi, they're kosher? Talmud Lomar seer riba. It says the word seer a number of times to include that it would be kosher even if it's not the same. Time of the Rabbi Rachmana, how the Rabbi Rachmana have a mina psulin. The reason is because it says seer to tell you that they're both kosher. It's kosher. But if it didn't say seer twice, so we would have thought it's possible. Where do you know that there would have been a havamina that it holds it back if they're not the same? It says the word shnei 3 times. The Rabbi Rachman seer. Once the Torah already said seer includes it, even if it's not the same. Shnei lamali. Why do you need to say the word shnei 3 times? One is for tell you they should look the same, one is to tell you the same height, and one is that they should be the same price. We learn the same type of teaching by the sheep of the Metzorah. When Metzorah is mechaper for his Avera or his Tara, Yikach Shnei Kvasim. It says in the pasuk he should take Shnei Kvasim, Miyat Kvasim Shnayim. Kvasim is at least 2. Matam Lomer Shnei. Why does it say Shnei? Shnei and Shavin. should be similar. How do you know even if they're not similar, it's still kosher? Talmud Lomar keves riba. It says the word keves a second time to tell you to include, even if they're not the same. Time with the Rabbi Rachmana, hala Rabbi Rachmana have mina psula. It's only because the Torah included it. If it didn't include it, we would have thought it's possibly kuva minalan. Where would we have thought to say that it's ma'akiv, that they have to be similar? So it says the word tia in the parsha has to be like it is. Tia usually means a kuva. It has to be like it's supposed to be. V'hasha the Rabbi Rachmana keves tia lamali. Once the Torah says the word keves twice, so why the word tia? We know that it doesn't have to be the same. The shar of Yosef Shamatzar, I tell you, the rest of the dealings, the rest of the avoda, the Masorah has to be exactly as it says in the Torah. It's not nami gabi Masorah kiyagavna. Also, by a different portion of Masorah, we have a similar idea. Siporim, miyut siporim shnayim. It says he brings two birds for his Tara. The minimum siporim is plural, so it's at least two. Matom alomer shtei. Why do they say two? Sheyu shtei and shavos. Minay shalbi shtei and shavos sheros. How do you know even if they're not similar, they're kosher? Talmud Lomar sipor riba. It says the word sipor another time. Tell you it's still good. Time with the Rabbi Rachmana. It's because the Torah included Allah Rabbi Rachmana psulos ikuv minalan. Where is the ikuv from? Sagla dechamina tia ksiv. Says the word tia. Hash the Rabbi Rachmana sipor tia lamal. Once it says the word sipor another time, why do you need the ikuv of tia? Alishar of yaso shamatzor. Like we said before, the rest of the proceedings of the Masorah have to be done according to what the Torah actually says. Yihalchi gabi tzmidin nami. By a korban tamid, you bring a korban tamid twice a day. Nema kvasim miut kvasim shnayim. When it says kvasim, the plural is at least two. Matam olomer shnayim. Why does it say the word shnayim? Shu shnei and shavin. Minai that the two they should be similar. Minai jalbi she'en shnei and shavin ksher. How do you know? Even if they're not similar, kosher. Talmud Lomar keves riba. Mitzvah hachanami debaina. So the Gemara says, Rashi says, the mitzvah hachanami debaina she shnei and shavin ulo shaninu ze ezel tamidim ezel tzmidim. It seems to be that. We're saying until now is that whenever it says the word shnayim, at least the mitzvah, it should be the same. We never saw by Mishnayos, by Maseches Tamid, that they said they have to be the same. So the Gemara fixes it up. When it says shnayim, it's not talking about they have to be similar by a korban tamid. It's talking about they have to be done kineged hayom, opposite the day. See exactly what that means. Does it have to be done in the direction of the daylight, or whether it means that you have to have two for the day? We already know how many you bring. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. Why twice? It has to be facing the direction of the sunlight. The morning Tamid was shechted in the west, the northwest. The north is where you shechted most of the karbanos. It was done in the west part, because since the walls, the base of Mishra, were tall, and the sun was coming from the east, so therefore the sunlight wouldn't reach it unless you shechted it in the west. And the one in the afternoon was in the opposite, when the sun was in the west and the walls were high. Therefore, you had to shecht it in the eastern part, the northeastern part, so that the sunlight would get there. Why tabashnia? Rashi says because you needed the tabas is where the ring where they put the neck of the animal, the legs of the animal would be in the tabas rishona to hold it down. Musafin shal Shabbos vaday shrichin shnei and shavin. Now the Gemara just adds in that the korban musaf of Shabbos, which is also shnei kvasim, that also has to be shnei and shavin. We're going to see Rashi has the two different gears over here, whether it's the mitzvah or the yikuva, they have to be two, and musafin have to be two. Tan Rabbanan, shnei seira Yoma Kippurim b'shachtam b'chutz. You have the two seir Yom Kippur that you shechted outside the base of Mikdash. Normally shchitas chutz is not like you have kares for it. You shechted at kachim outside the base of Mikdash. Ad shelo higra alein chayav al shneiim. If you shafted both of them outside the Beis Hamikdash before you did the lottery to decide which is Hashem, which is Azazel, then you're chayav for both of them. Once you did the lottery, chayav al shal shem, potter al shal Azazel. You're potter of shal Azazel because it was going to be sent away anyway. It wasn't going to be slaughtered in the Beis Hamikdash. So the Gemara asks, we just said that before you do the lottery, you chayav on both of them. So what are they chazal? What are they right for? Amar Rav Chisda hoil v'roy l'sir hanase b'chutz. Because it could be used for a seer that we use for the musafin for Yom Kippur. Umayshna, because until you do the hagrola, it's not koveya them for a korban yet, but you could still use it for a korban musaf. Umayshna l'sir hanase b'fnim delo. The mechusar hagrola, l'sir hanase b'chutz nami lo chazi the mechusar avodas hayom. We said before that l'sir hanase b'fnim that we're not answering that's right for that because you still have to do the hagrola, you have to do the lottery. L'sir hanase b'chutz also it's not fit right now because you have to do a lot of avodos. You have to bring the par and the seer and the Ketores inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and you only do the Musafin afterwards. So it's Mechusar Zman. He says Mechusar Zman is not considered a problem on that day of Yom Kippur. Basically, he's saying Mechusar Zman is not the same thing as Mechusar Maisa. Mechusar Zman, it's just lacking time. It's going to happen eventually. Mechusar Maisa, when you're missing an action, that's considered to be, it's not raw yet. It's not fit yet. If you shaft a shlamim before the doors of the heichal open up in the morning, it's possible. It says in the pasuk you should shaft it at the Pesach of Al Moed. So the Josh of the Gemara is in the beginning of Zvachim. It says that the doors have to be open. Shaftan b'chutz kodem sheniftechu et los heichal. Potter, my time, mechusar psicha, mechusar ma'isa dami. Since opening doors is a ma'isa, and he didn't do the ma'isa yet, therefore, it's not roy to bring the shlamim as a korban, so therefore it's mechusar ma'isa, and you wouldn't be chayav for shchitas chutz. That's what we'll leave off for today. You can tune in to part 2, just go up, click one video on top. You'll see Yoma 62 part 2. We're going to deal with this idea of if it's not Shaveh b'maro v'koma v'damim, it's still kosher. Is that lechatchila or b'diavad? Tune in to hear that next.